An ancient myth has been told about the legendary Blue Eyes and Red Eyes dragons, one dragon of pure light and the other of darkness. These stories gave a German scientist an idea to start producing machines in the likeness of Blue Eyes for if any threat should come to his home, starting with a crude design and evolving it more and more until it came out perfect. But naming it Orange Eyes Metal Dragon might set off some copyright violations from the Red Eyes, so he decided to name them Cyber Dragons. That's all I know about Cyber Dragon lore, I swear, please don't hurt me. Oh boy, it has been a long time since I touched Cyber Dragons, but basically, they are the main deck of the secondary rival of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Zane Truesdale. Their main strategy boils down to basically this: Dragon See, Dragon Kill. The main reason why this strategy is so simple is because all the Cyber Dragons treat themselves as being named Cyber Dragon, and the main gimmick is to try to fusion summon the biggest Cyber Dragon you can to beat down your opponent with. If you can't get out a fusion monster immediately, Cyber Dragon is a level 5 monster with 2100 attack that you can summon instantly by its effect if your opponent has a monster on the field. Cyber Dragon also has really good search potential with Cyber Dragon monsters that can search out the search spells and search spells that can search out the Cyber Dragons. But it also gets access to a really good searcher called Machine Duplication. All of the Cyber Dragon monsters are considered Cyber Dragons. So when you play Machine Duplication, it treats your Cyber Dragon, say, core as a Cyber Dragon, so now you can summon 2 more Cyber Dragons from your deck. With 2 Cyber Dragons and a Cyber Dragon core with its effects not negated, you can either choose to activate a fusion spell to fusion summon them into a Cyber Dragon monster, or you can overlay the 2 Cyber Dragons into Cyber Dragon Nova and then let Rank Up Pixie's evolution do its thing for Cyber Dragon Infinity. Galaxy Soldier is also a really good option to run here because even though you only run 2 Galaxy Soldiers, you can still discard the Cyber Dragons because the Cyber Dragons are light monsters. Check out the last video if you want more in-depth detail on Galaxies. Cyber Dragon does have a pretty big weakness that's similar to Utopia's, where it doesn't really have any protection, but even worse because Cyber Dragons don't even get Zexa weapons to make up for it. What it does make up for is some really good anti-machine fusion monsters that can make an opponent feel. These are Chimeratech Fortress Dragon and Chimeratech Mega Fleet Dragon. Chimeratech Fortress Dragon isn't anything special, but the stipulation for its summoning is that it has to be special summoned by sending the above cards from either field to the graveyard. So it's basically a super polymerization for machines only. Mega Fleet Dragon lacks all of the power to take an opponent's monster at the same level as Fortress Dragon, but it can steal any monster from the extra monster zone. So, if you were to get rid of a Runic Hugin, you could sacrifice that Runic Hugin and not need to worry about any other Runic bullshit. That being said though, you probably don't want to run Cyber Dragon against Runic because Runic is one of those decks where if you don't have an out immediately in your hand, then you just lose. However, despite this, most of the Cyber Dragon fusion monsters are all OTK enablers, starting with Chimeratech Rampage Dragon. When it's summoned, Rampage Dragon lets you target spell and traps up to the number of monsters you use to summon it and immediately destroy them. Overdragon gets 800 attack points depending on how many Cyber Dragon monsters you send to the graveyard when you summon it, so it can probably get up to around like 4,000 easily and be able to attack all your opponent's monsters once each. Cyber Eternity Dragon is basically a wall if you have a Cyber Dragon fusion monster in your graveyard. And the main 2 monsters summoned by the fusion spell cards for Cyber Dragons are Cyber Twin Dragon, which lets you attack twice, and Cyber End Dragon. Cyber End Dragon has fallen off a bit, but you can't really argue with a monster that has 4,000 attack points and is able to deal piercing battle damage. The main spell cards used by Cyber Dragons are Cyberload Fusion, Overload Fusion, and the best of them all, Powerball. Overload Fusion lets you fusion summon a monster by banishing monsters from your graveyard so you can get out an easy Chimeratech Rampage Dragon. Cyberload Fusion lets you pick monsters from the Banished Zone and also monsters on your field to fusion summon, and can even do it during the battle phase because it's a quick play spell. And Power Bond is polymerization on steroids. Basically, Power Bond works the exact same way polymerization does, letting you fuse from your hand and field, but with a stipulation that has to be a machine monster, but when you summon that machine monster, you get to double its attack points the moment it's summoned. Granted, Power Bond does drain you in life points equal to the original amount of attack points that monster had, but if you bring out a 8,000 attack point Cyber End Dragon, your opponent had better hope they didn't leave their field empty. Some other decent cards might be Cyber Rev System, which lets you summon a Cyber Dragon from either your hand or your graveyard, so you can do some Cyberload Fusion plays. And Cyber Repair Plant lets you either pick to bring a Cyber Dragon back from your graveyard, add a light monster to your hand, or if you have 3 Cyber Dragons in your graveyard, do both of them. Cyber Dragons also managed to get themselves a Link monster in the form of Cyber Dragon Seeker, which is basically, if it hasn't attacked yet, you can pick a monster and it gets 2,100 extra attack. Some good mini dragons to allow your Cyber Dragons to do better is Manchester, which summons itself and a Cyber Dragon in the grave if you discarded a Cyber Dragon or had it conveniently there. Core to search a Cyber Spell or Trap, and Hairs to combo well with Rampage Dragon and search a Cyber Dragon when you need it. Aside from the fusion monsters though, you do also get easier access to Cyber Dragon Nova and Infinity for a free negate if you're stuck turn 1. You could also run Cyberdark, although that would depurify the Cyber Dragons a little bit because the Cyberdarks are basically evil Cyber Dragons that the rival who used Cyber Dragons used for a little bit when he was going on a little bit of a crazy shocking spree. I do believe, though, that is about it for Cyber Dragons, so feel free to stuff in whatever else you want to run for Cyber Dragons, like Ash Blossom, Max C, maybe an Evenly Match, maybe an Infinite Permanence. I don't know, and frankly, it'd be hypocritical of me if I judge you on it. That being said, though, I might instinctively cringe if there is something really wacky thrown into a Cyber Dragon deck purely because it's funny. And with the power of Cyber Dragons finished, it's going to be time to look at a Will to Fight the Night.